Month of February is a big month for Team Teal, Team Teal awareness, and a lot of young ladies, I suppose, get thrust into the spotlight, and they try very hard to win races. Joined by, firstly, Samantha Pascoe. Firstly, Sam, thank you very much for joining me today.
Oh, good. Thank you for having me.
Is it a bit overawing? I talked to a few of the girls over here from time to time. This year's been a little bit different because of COVID lockdown. I haven't been out and about as much, but all of a sudden February comes around and you become an ambassador for ovarian cancer, even though you may not be an official ambassador, but you become an ambassador by wearing the teal pants. Does it become a bit overawing for a young person?
It definitely puts a bit more pressure on, I think. Obviously, you're always going out there to try and do your best to get a winner, but it's definitely extra special to get a winner while the Team Teal campaign's on. So, yeah, it does put a bit of pressure on, but I always do my best.
I personally think it's a great time that you see how the young ladies grow in the industry from time to time around that time, because I know last year Taylor French commented that she won her first race through the Teal month of February. Like, she was so happy last year, and this year she was winning races left, right and centre. So you can see people actually growing, but it's a great thing, and you get great publicity out of it as well. So there's pluses and minuses to the I suppose a little bit of pressure that's involved.
Yeah, for sure. Well, last year, like you said about growing and progressing in our driving, I think I only drove one winner in the whole Teal campaign, which I was a bit disappointed about. So already to have driven 4 is a big step up, which I'm pretty proud of.
Absolutely. Right, you drove 4 winners yesterday. For people wondering why I'm interviewing Sammy Pascoe, you drove 4 winners yesterday. Your father, rightfully so, put a post on Facebook saying that you're the 7th lady in Australia to have done that feat. So that is a super, super proud moment for any father, any parent. I would imagine. I'm tipping mum's just as proud as dad, but dad probably a bit more vocal, knowing what dads are like.
Yeah.
Your history, how long have you been in this? How long have you been driving for?
So this is, I know the seasons are a little bit different as of now, but this is the beginning of my 3rd season. So it's my 3rd, beginning of my 3rd year, 3rd Teal campaign. And honestly, I didn't do a lot of driving before I even got into trialling and racing, sort of jumped straight in the deep end. He's had a history of racing, more so before I was born, and then started working away. And then when I sort of got a bit older and got an interest into driving, he got back some horses in training, more so to give me some drives than anything. But yeah, I haven't been driving for that long, really.
Quick, did you have a horse background? Like, did you have show ponies, riding horses? Did you have? How did you get your horse bug? I suppose prior to becoming a driver.
I started with the pony trots when I was a kid. Went through that whole rank, and then started riding horses. I showed Western Pleasure horses for quite a few years, and then from that into driving, and I sort of stopped riding a bit just because driving is a pretty big commitment. Takes up a lot of time. So, yeah, just with the driving now.
How long did it take you, I suppose, to break into winning a race as a driver? Like you said, 3 years. Was it something that came instantly for you, or did you have to wait a little while?
I think my aim when I first started driving was to drive a winner in my first 10, and I think it was my 8th drive. I won on He's a Presidente. It was my 8th drive. So that was pretty exciting.
It's always good to kick off goals, isn't it? And to kick off those little things. You said to me earlier on when we were talking that you've driven about 60 winners, you believe, now in that 3 years?
Yeah, I did know the count, but luckily I've been ticking off a few more winners recently. I've lost count, but yeah, I think it'd be a bit above 60 by now, I reckon.
And a couple of doubles. You alluded to that you've had a couple of doubles in amongst that.
Yeah, 2 or 3 doubles, I think. And obviously the next step was a treble, which I was pretty stoked to have got yesterday, and then went one more, so I still technically haven't driven a treble.
We'll put that out there, whether someone wants to comment it on Facebook or the rest, because technically you haven't driven a treble. You've gone past that to yesterday, and we will touch on yesterday shortly. Your biggest success or your biggest achievement in harness racing, only in a small short time prior to yesterday, where was that?
Still at the moment, I think it would be driving the Gawler Derby winner last year. which that was my only win for the Teal campaign last year, was Sir Lucas in the Gawler Derby. And he was a really good horse for me, but he won a heat of the Southern Cross finals as well, and then unfortunately broke down, so didn't get to run in the final, which leaves the Derby as my biggest achievement.
And then capping off yesterday, you notched up 4 winners for a variety of different people. The first one was for Dad, so I'm tipping you're in the good books with Dad straight away. Winning race 2 with Fairy Tale Hall was probably the omen of the day, because you weren't expecting to get 4 of those. Yourself and Dad, how many horses do you guys train, or how many does Dad train?
It's gone up and down a little bit recently, as it does. I think we've only got the 3 race horses in work at the moment, and then a couple of babies coming up, hopefully getting ready to trial soon. So not too busy at home in that department at the moment. Steam
Cleaned for Bob Maloney. I'm not sure that's a horse I didn't have. Was he a former Victorian horse, Steam Cleaned?
Bob Maloney bred it and has raced it his whole career.
Yeah, no, not the horse I was thinking of. He was a Kiwi horse. I don't know a lot about Bob. Does he train many at all, or?
He breeds a lot and races a few down south and just across the border. He seems to have a bit of a connection with Bronte Giorgio here up in Globe Derby. So he sends a lot of his to Bronte. So that's where you would probably be more familiar with his horses that he races and has bred.
Have you driven many for him?
I've only driven a handful. I drove one for him earlier in the year called Better Steam Ahead and got a win for him on that one as well. And then I've driven Steam Cleaned a couple of times, but I'm not a regular driver for him, so it's nice to get a win up for him.
Ray Holberton, he's a name I know. He's an older gentleman. I shouldn't say elderly. He might get into trouble, but he's been around for a long time. But he'd be a good man to drive for, I would imagine, through South Australia.
Yeah, and he's been really good to me, really supportive since I first started driving, and always very helpful. And he gives me drives when he can, and I really appreciate that.
And then your last one of the 4 was your longest price one at $5.50, but was for Frank Pulicino. And I probably wanted to highlight a little bit about that, like being able to, you said you help out Frank in that, working the horses in the morning and the likes, and Gator's a bit of a controversial figure as far as harness racing goes and the likes, but I think a lot of people forget back in the day when Gator was a young driver, she was driving against the guys and she had to really, I suppose, stamp her authority. It wasn't like now where there's women around everywhere, and she'd be probably a good little sounding block for you as far as your driving skills and how to handle situations, I would imagine.
Yeah, she's great. She's so knowledgeable. Like you said, she's been around a long time and definitely proven herself in a lot of ways. And you can't not like her. She's just one of the greatest people you'll ever meet. So she's been really helpful. I've learned a lot already in the short time I've been working for her.
And she guides you through your drives. Do you talk much about your drives, how they work, and that with Gator?
Sit down like before each meeting, have a bit of a chat about what drives we've got and how we think how they're going to go and all that. But not too much form wise. But we'll have a little bit of a chat here and there.
You didn't seem to have a lot of other drives on the meeting. I found one other one there. How many drives did you have for the actual meeting?
I had 5.
You did have only the 5. I was flicking through my...
Yeah, I had 5 drives.
Phone. So that is a really, really good... Dad would have been upset you got beat on his in the last.
I think it would have been a miracle if that one got up, for being honest. Yeah.
You said last year you only drove the 1 for the Team Teal. How have you been going so far this year?
So yesterday was the start of the day. Well, it was my first winner for Team Teal. So I've just the 4 yesterday and my 4 so far for Team Teal.
Many more to come, I would imagine, coming up over the weekend. And that, have you got some drives going Saturday nights and the likes?
Hopefully, yeah. I've got a few noms for Saturday night. It definitely puts your name in people's minds when you drive a few winners. So that's helped me get on some different horses this weekend already, which is really good.
Do you have goals, Sam? Like a lot of people, in the industry, young people, and I would imagine in South Australia it's probably a little bit tricky because you get a lot of negativity about how the industry is and the like. You probably look across the border and say, "I'd love to be in Victoria," but do you have some goals where you'd like to get to?
I'd love to be able to, like you said, tricky in SA. I'd love to be able to make a career out of working and racing horses because that's what I'm passionate about. I really enjoy it, and I don't mind the hours that you have to put in you know, every day. It's hard work, but I love what I do, and you've got to love what you do to keep doing it. So, just, yeah, ideally I'd love to make a career out of horses.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a life balance too. Sometimes I'm sure you spoke to some people in Victoria, and it's pretty hectic. We go week after, day after day, basically. Whereas in South Australia, you can get a few days to rest and do other things. And you've got a great role model there in South Australia with I forgot her name, Lady Hill. Her name just totally left me.
Danny.
Danny Hill, how good am I going? I was going to call her Donna, and I was like, no, sorry, Danny, I apologise for that. But she would have to be a great role model for you. And the fact that she stayed in South Australia too, where she would well and truly cut her own in Victoria or New South Wales, anywhere where she chose to go. But she's actually chosen to stay in South Australia. So that'd have to be a good little push for you.
Yeah, she's definitely an inspiration. Like, it's a big achievement for me to have driven a treble or four or whatever in a meeting, and she does that consistently week in, week out. So to be able to drive like her one day and achieve those sort of goals is a big goal.
Very, very good. Samantha Pascoe, thank you for joining me. Well done on driving 4. You will make quite a few more people sit up and watch you driving and the rest. How old are you, Sam? Just very quickly.
23.
So you're only a young girl. You've got plenty of time to go in the industry. You're doing a great job as being an ambassador for harness racing, firstly, and then also for Team Teal and WomenCan. And I know Duncan was pretty cock-a-hoop when I rang him this morning and said I'll catch up and do an interview for you. I think he's looking forward to getting over there and meeting you, yourself and Danny, very shortly, and promoting what you guys are doing, because you're doing a terrific job flying the flag, and you've really flown the flag for Team Teal this Monday just gone, and put your name in lights, which is terrific. So thank you very much for joining me, Sam.
Oh, good. Thank you.